Ben, we're here with another awesome video. We're dealing with our 40-volt Greenworks 17-inch electric rechargeable mower. The issue I'm having with it, and thanks to the internet I've been able to kind of figure out what's going on, is that due to vibration of the blade, and that's normal for it, the motor has a pair of brushes. And I did do a video on Red Barn Homestead that kind of touched upon it, and we kind of opened the lid like a hood and saw that it was actually happening. But what problem is I pushed the brush back in, but of course it did what it's gonna do and it vibrated back out. So now when I put the battery in and I squeeze the trigger, nothing happens. It's not that the switch is broken, it's not that the safety isn't in, it is, but there's something else wrong with it. So in this video what we're going to do is take the top off of it and I'll show you the problem and exactly how to fix it. Okay, so to access the motor, there are actually only 6 screws to get to. There's 2 in the front, 2 on the sides, and 2 in the back. Unfortunately, these 2 in the back are kind of hard to get to, so let's just go ahead and remove these set, and then we'll work on these back ones here. You'll need a T20 Torx to get into it, and if you had it on a drill or manual drive, doesn't really matter. They're not in there that hard, they're just, you know, screws into plastic. So to get to these set of screws here, you can kind of come in at an angle and hit them, but you can't get the top off because the height adjustment bar is in the way. Of course, there's a little bit of mechanism in here. So what we're going to do is actually take the whole handlebar off, and then there's a screw that we can kind of disassemble this component, and then we can get the lid completely off. With those screwed out, we can now just pull this up. And I'm trying to vaguely think if this is how we actually had it when you assembled the mower when you first got it. I can't remember, we'll have to look at our video. But there should be enough cable that release our handlebars and just set them down. Now you can see where our screws are that we need to replace or take out. Okay, so by taking this large nut off and just pulling this, taking the 3 screws out, you pull off the plastic cover, and that's all it is just a cover. You can see our nut where our handlebar, screws into, but you also see these 2 screws here. Now we need to be careful because this is a mechanism for the height control where you push it down and it moves it up and down. But I don't actually think this just pushes on a lever that's down in the machine, so we should be able to take out these 2 screws on each side and pull this handlebar out. So with those 2 screw, or I should say 4 removed, we should be able to lift up on the bar. And sure enough, it's just, this button is just a holder for an actual bar that goes deep into the mower here. So this is now removed and out of our way. We can now come in with our screwdriver and remove these last 2 top screws. And with that, we should be able to lift the top of our mower right off. Now, we've got our wiring for our fuse and our battery connection here, but we'll set this aside and we'll come in here to our problem and what we need to fix. Okay, so we're in the motor here. We've just lifted the top off. Number one, we're getting some fairly interesting debris in here. In theory, the motor does need to be cool, and there is a little bit of ventilation, but it's quite a bit of grass in here. But let me show you up here. This is the problem. There is a clip on this side that keeps the brush in, but you can see I can pull this out, and it vibrates itself out and away from the motor, and now it can't spin anymore. This is actually supposed to be all the way in. And then, like on this side, there's supposed to be obviously a clip somewhere that keeps it from coming out. Now mine, I can't see the clip on this side. I can on this one, for sure. It's probably on the bottom, and my guess is there's probably not anything for it to bite into. So in order to keep this part serviceable, we'll probably never need to change it. The mower will die before we ever need to get to this part here anyway. But what we're gonna do is just put a dab of glue on this end here, and while we're here, over here as well. And by gluing them in, this one has a little bit of play, but it's supposed to. By gluing them in, they're not going to vibrate out. So in this case, I just went to a local store, got some goop that allows us to not have any vibration. You know, it's vibration resistant, so we're just going to put them there. Doesn't need a lot. I mean, I can't pull it out now. It's kind of locked in again, but I don't want it happening again. So a little glue here, a little glue there, and that should fix our issue. So one of the things, of course, that my adhesive says is make sure the area is clean. Well, it does not, it refers to the area I'm gluing, but in this case, I'm just going to use my shop vac. Let's get this grass out of here while we've got it open. Of course, as I vacuum, I can see that there is an air vent underneath the motor here, underneath the deck, and that's where this grass is slowly accumulating and getting on here. They obviously didn't think it was an issue, and the motor itself actually looks quite clean. So in this case, I'm going to be using goop too, but I was even kind of thinking maybe a 2-part epoxy, like at the dollar store, or even a JB Weld. But this is an adhesive, and it's vibration resistant, so that's kind of handy. So I'm going to drop some there, like I said. Doesn't take much. And I'm going to drop some on the other side, just because. I don't want to have to come back here ever again. But it won't be enough that I won't be able to take a knife and cut it out, hopefully, if I do need to ever change the brushes. So by putting it there, it's going to hopefully keep that brush canister still. The set time on this is 24 to 48 hours. So that being said, there's not a lot of load on that brush either, but we're not going to run the mower for the next 2 days. We'll just let it grow in there for now. But that's it. That's the repair. Now we just have to put everything back together again. So we'll back the camera up again, and I'll do a slow motion or fast motion montage of reassembly, and you can play it back slowly if you have any questions. And of course, you can always ask me. Just a recap on the end here. You can see there are 3 big holes, and they fit into the exact holes you see. So you can't actually flip it upside down. It has to go in the right way. And it just clicks in like so. And then your 3 screws, there's one kind of on top. There's one in the bottom here. And then there's one in this little, oops. That'll happen. One in the bottom hole here. And then we'll put the big screws back on. And that completes the repair outside of we do need to test it. Just double check my lever. If I push it down, I can still change my height up and down, so that still works. These, you tension them tight enough to where you can actually get them closed, and they clamp the handlebar to the frame. And you'll notice I use the screws interchangeably. They are, for the most part, all the same. They're all the same length. The head's slightly different, but not enough to actually matter, I don't think, in actual assembly. So you can just put them all back in, and they all fit in everybody's hole and things like that. Now, before we do say goodbye, we will go outside and just double check to make sure we did fix it. So we'll put the battery in. We'll just give it a click and make sure it does fire off there. So we'll go do that right now. Of course, if you've gotten this far along in the video, I presume you've already checked for the basic things, like your battery has good voltage on it, that you do have the safety switch in it. I actually have not found a resettable circuit breaker on this unit, but I imagine somehow there's got to be some sort of overload mechanism. Maybe it's in the battery. I'm not sure. And of course, you'll also have to check for the switch part here in the handle. That being said, I just kind of went right to looked on the internet, found that the brushes were an issue, opened it up and saw mine had moved. And as soon as I pushed it in and tried it, it worked. So maybe you are seeing this video first, and maybe this is the first thing you should check, besides the little battery indicator on your battery. But just to make sure it does work, we're going to just kind of fire it off here. So of course you press the button and you pull the trigger, and there it goes. So we're going to let it sit for 2 days. If you buy a 5-minute epoxy, you can run it in 5 minutes, but in my case it has up to 2 days set time, so we're just going to let it sit there. So that's essentially how you fix the brush issue on one of these Greenworks mowers, feel free to look at our channel, and we'll constantly keep posting in regards to this mower. So my channel is Turbo231, but also check out, we have a lot of videos on this mower on Red Barn Homestead as well, and there'll be links to both at the end. And of course, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them. Click subscribe and the little notification bell if you want to be harassed by me releasing videos all the time. It is summertime, so we are releasing videos about twice a week. So with that, you all have a good day.